Hey, this is David with the Shepherd School. Today what we're going to do is make a device so that we can create our own beeswax foundation. So we're going to make a mold of a mold, okay? Or a mold to make a mold. And basically what happens is inside my beehives, in the frames, I add foundation every year, right? And it's just basically a sheet of beeswax that has the comb embossed on it, and then the bees then have a starting spot to build out their own wax. And since it takes about 8 pounds of honey to make a pound of wax, the more wax that I can put into the honey, or into the hive, the more honey I get out of the hive, okay? And, you know, as it gets old, it gets brood comb. After a couple of years, you want to replace it. If you get wax moths or whatever, and you've got to melt it down, or if you're spitting it out with your extractor and it blows out, which has happened to me numerous times this year for some reason, you got to replace it. Or if you make cut comb honey, you got to replace it. So anyway, the only way I have to get this foundation is to order it, and it's about $1.25 a sheet plus shipping and tax and all that. And that's not very sustainable from the perspective of, you know, I can't make it, right? I'm dependent on someone else to make it. And so I've been looking and doing some research of how I could make my own foundation. And basically, most people that make their own foundation use a embossing machine, a big roller, and 2 sets. One rolls out the wax flat, and the other has a negative imprint of the foundation, both sides. And as the beeswax sheets are fed through, it imprints the foundation design into the wax. Those sets are like $4,000, okay? And so that's not going to work. So I did some research and found a couple places, and I'll put the links down in the article on the website, where people made Bushman, you know, improvised ways of making their foundation. And kind of did a little research, a couple different ways of doing it, and I've kind of modified and done my own way, and we're going to see if it works, okay? You could buy the mold that I'm about to make, not the mold of the mold, but the actual silicone mold itself. I saw one on one of the bee companies, Man Lake or something. It was like $400, okay? I'm using some silicone, and it's relatively expensive. You know, I spent about $100 in silicone, but hopefully I'll be able to make several molds out of that. But let's just show you what we're going to do. So cut these strips, and I've spread glue on them, and now I'm just laying them down next to my foundation. What that does is make a nice smooth transition for the mold, okay? Because I want to have a little extra over here so I can rivet the plates together. Alright? So these are just made out of stuff I had laying around the house, okay? And I've got 2 different sides, so I've got 2 sets to make one. And it starts out, the base of it is some small cell foundation. That's the other reason I'm doing this. The molds and most of the things I've found to make foundation isn't for small cell, it's for large cell, okay? And so I've started with 2 pieces of small cell foundation. One of them, I've got it labeled here, I don't know if you can see, but wire up. You know how the embossed wires have an L to it to hook into your frame? This one's laying so the wires are pointed up, and I had to cut them off, but I labeled it so I wouldn't forget. And then this is just, the black is just a piece of rubber that they sell to go in toolboxes. I happen to have a roll of it, and so I cut it because when I have my mold here, I want to have it flush and with some left over so the wax can come out, and then I can cut it how I want it, okay? Other people haven't done it that way. I'm not sure it's the best way, but that's how I'm doing it. And I just had a piece of shelving board left over from my gun rack project, and then this is just some molding that I nailed and glued, okay? This is the same thing, but it's wire side down, so the L would have pointed down, okay? That way I get both sides of the frame of the foundation, because there is a difference, okay? And so they're going to make two pieces together. All right, now this one is almost exactly the same, except for the piece of rubber here doesn't quite meet my mold. There's a little lip down here, and so when I pour my silicone, hopefully it will go down there and form a little lip. That way when I go to lift up, and you'll see that when I actually make the foundation, but it gives me something to grab onto to pour down, okay? So now that we've made them, what I have to do now is, because this isn't a disposable mold, I want hopefully I want to make several of these, because like I said, if they sell for $300, you know, maybe I can sell them for a little less than that to other beekeepers, okay? So I have some sealer and release agent, so what it'll do is it will both seal this wood and any parts of this rubber where the rubber and the foundation meet, any edges, so that my the silicone, won't flow down and absorb into it. So it'll seal it, make it one piece, but also it's a release agent so that my silicone will come out of the mold easy, okay? So let me blow all the little dust out, because any imperfections in the wax is going to come out in my mold, and then in every piece of foundation that I ever make, okay? So stir well, and this stuff comes on in 2 coats. All right, we're going to brush it on. We're going to brush it on and then wait 15 minutes for it to dry, and then brush it on a second time and wait 30 minutes for it to dry, okay? Alright, we put our first coat on, and the instructions said let it sit 15 minutes and then do the second coat. We actually went about 20 because I got busy, and then we did the second coat, and it's been about 40 minutes because I've been messing around on the computer upstairs. It's, you want it not to pool, right? And it's not going to dry like it's dried, right? It's also a mold release agent, and so it's a little oily, and it is a little damp. Okay, here's my and it comes in a part A and a part B, okay? That's a sample pack, and the instructions are pretty simple. You just mix equal amounts of part A and part B, and mix it thoroughly, okay? And then pour it over your model and let it cure, and then once it's cured, you just demold it. Whatever you mix, you've got to use, or it's going to just harden up, okay? So you kind of want to plan it out, and that's why I have several. You know, my goal is to do my beeswax foundation mold, but I've got several ingot molds that will take whatever is left, okay? So, part A. Yellow and blue make green, right? Pink and blue make a funky color of purple. Something that drives my wife crazy when I do these projects. I come up with the idea and then I go and buy the material, And then it'll sit until I get in the mood to actually do it. You know? This is not a project that you can work that way. This stuff has a shelf life, and so it's not something that you can store up and use whenever. You need to buy it as you need it. Another caveat to this: my wife would beat me to death if she saw I was using this mixing bowl for this. But I called technical support, and they said as long as I mix it good and it cures, it'll just peel off when I'm done. Okay? I bought some disposable measuring cups, but when I looked at everything, I realized they just weren't going to be big enough. Alright, I mixed, and tried to make sure I didn't incorporate too many air bubbles. Okay? Now I'm just going to pour it into my mold and let it find its own center. So here are our actual molds, and let's see what happens. Before I peel it off, let's talk a little bit about shrinkage. This is small cell foundation that I'm using, so it's 4.9, and I was really concerned about shrinkage rates because I know when you cast aluminum and lead and other metals and such, the material is going to contract as it cures, as it dries. So I contacted the manufacturer, and they said that this particular silicone has a shrinkage rate of 0.002. And so I did some calculation looking at right cell and plastic foundation and all sorts of different size cells, added in the shrinkage rate to see which one would take me down to 4.9, and couldn't find anything. So I just went with regular 4.9 foundation, and when I did the shrinkage rate, it just, you know, made it negligible. So I went with it, even though this is going to be, you know, slightly smaller than 4.9. But still within the, you know, workers' bees range. Okay, so let's see if we can get this out the mold without messing it up. I thought about this last night, and what I should have done is not glued this board in and screwed it. So I could have unscrewed it and just lifted it out. However, it did come out pretty good, other than some places where I'm going to have to peel off. And clean it up a bit. One other thing that I have to say, I did not glue my foundation down. I was trying to be cheap and hoping that I could reuse it. So when I do this again, I'm probably going to glue my foundation down and see if that helps. But so all I got to do now is clean these two up and rivet the two plates together. Okay? And then throw my wax down, smooth it out, and let it cool. Okay, so we're going to do that and come back and show you how we're actually going to try to make us some foundation. Okay, of course that'll be another video. So I appreciate it. Until next time, you can always catch us online, www.tngun.com.